his face pale and voice trembling as he delivered the news. Ethan had collapsed and was in critical condition. Deep in a small, vibrant village, there once lived a determined woman named Lena. Her life had been shaped by love, resilience, and the pressures of society's expectations. Lena was married to Kai, a man respected for his quiet strength, but their happiness was often overshadowed by an age-old tradition. While Lena dreamed of raising a loving family, society had a different vision for her role. This is the story of Lena, her daughters, and the legacy they would unknowingly leave behind. In a small, tight-knit village, Lena, a compassionate and determined woman, dreamed of a family filled with warmth and love. She married Kai, a man admired for his quiet strength, and together they built a life rooted in the values of their community. Their family was already blessed with 2 young daughters, each bringing light into Lena's life. But in their village, tradition placed immense value on having a son, a boy who could carry on the family name. When Lena gave birth to their 3rd child, a beautiful baby girl, her heart overflowed with love. Holding her daughter close, she looked up at Kai, hoping to see the same joy in his eyes. "Isn't she perfect, Kai? Our little blessing," Lena whispered, her voice soft with pride. But Kai's smile was faint, and an unspoken disappointment clouded his face. "Another daughter?" he murmured under his breath. "We already have 2. Lena's heart sank, but she forced herself to smile. "Each of our daughters is a blessing, Kai. They are healthy and strong," she replied gently, hoping to sway his heart. Their quiet exchange was interrupted by Lena's mother-in-law, Elma, who entered with a critical gaze. "Another girl?" Elma sighed, crossing her arms. "When will you bring forth a son, Lena? A daughter is nothing but another mouth to feed. A real gift to this family would be a son." The words stung, but Lena remained silent, holding her daughter close as if to shield her from the weight of these expectations. She whispered softly, "You are not a burden, my little one. You are loved." Lena's heart ached, yet she resolved not to let the traditions of others dim the joy she felt for her new daughter. Years passed, and Lena's family grew. With each child, Lena hoped her husband and mother-in-law would come to see the beauty and strength in their daughters. Yet, with each daughter's birth, Elma's resentment deepened. By the time Lena had 5 daughters, Elma's disappointment had turned into bitter disapproval, which she voiced without hesitation. "5 daughters, Lena," Elma would say, her voice dripping with disdain. "Are you trying to disgrace this family? A real mother brings honor by bearing sons, not a house full of girls." Her words stung, but Lena stood firm. She would respond softly, "Mama, each child is a gift. This is God's will, not mine." But Elma would brush her off, rolling her eyes and muttering under her breath about the useless daughters Lena kept bringing into the world. The daughters growing up under the same roof couldn't ignore the resentment directed at them. They heard the whispered insults, saw the way Elma treated them as less than, giving them the least portions at meals and treating them as if they were burdens. Their father Kai rarely intervened, choosing silence over conflict, which hurt them just as deeply. One evening, Lena gathered her daughters under the old oak tree in their backyard. By the light of a dim lantern, she spoke to them in a tone as gentle as it was firm. "My loves," she began, "you are not defined by anyone's expectations. You are strong, you are smart, and each of you has a light inside that no one can extinguish. Don't let anyone make you feel less than you are." Her eldest daughter Amara looked up, her eyes fierce with determination. "Mama, we will show them. We'll become something important, someone they'll have to respect." Lena's heart swelled with pride, knowing that the seeds of resilience and ambition she had planted were beginning to grow. These daughters of hers were unbreakable, and though society might try to undervalue them, she knew they would rise above. As the years rolled on, Lena knew that her daughters were growing up in a world that might never fully appreciate their worth. She watched them grow, each with her own unique spark, and felt a pride so strong that it almost eclipsed the judgment she faced daily. Lena refused to let bitterness touch her heart. Instead, she devoted herself to nurturing the gifts she saw in each of her daughters, making her mission to protect their spirits and build their confidence. Every evening after the chores were done and the house quieted, Lena would gather her daughters outside under the wide, sprawling branches of the village's ancient oak tree. They'd sit together under the night sky, the stars twinkling above as Lena shared stories and life lessons with them. Her voice was soft but steady, carrying the weight of her love and wisdom as she wove tales of strong, brave women, heroes who had overcome obstacles and fought against societal expectations to make their own paths in life. One evening, Lena sat with her 5 daughters as they leaned in close, listening to every word. "My loves," she began, her voice filled with warmth and conviction. "The world may try to tell you who you are, but only you can decide that. You are not just daughters. You are my pride, my joy, and you are capable of anything. Don't let anyone's words diminish the light you carry inside." The eldest, Amara, a serious and studious young woman with a fierce intelligence, listened with wide eyes. She had always felt a deep connection with her mother, sensing the strength Lena hid beneath her calm demeanour. "Mama, will people ever see us for who we really are?" Amara asked, her tone both curious and determined. Lena reached out, gently placing a hand on Amara's shoulder. "They may not see you now, but one day, your actions will speak louder than any words. Show them your strength, your kindness, your intelligence. That is how you'll be remembered." Each of Lena's daughters held her words close to their hearts, feeling a newfound sense of purpose. Leah, the second-born, had a voice as clear and enchanting as a songbird's and dreamed of sharing it with others. Maya, the middle child, was a natural leader, always looking out for her sisters and organising small projects in the village to help those in need. The youngest twins, Naya and Lila, were inseparable, bringing joy to all around them with their laughter and artistic talents, often spending hours painting colourful murals around the village, brightening up old walls and transforming them into vibrant works of art. Under Lena's guidance, her daughters began to thrive, each finding her own way to shine. Lena made it her mission to ensure they understood their worth, despite the whispers and disapproving looks from others. When her daughters faced cruel words from neighbours or cold glances from their grandmother, Lena would remind them, "You are stronger than their words. Remember that." As time passed, her daughters' talents began to garner attention within the village. Amara excelled in her studies, impressing her teachers and dreaming of becoming a doctor. Leah's voice became known beyond their family home, captivating the villagers who would pause in their daily tasks just to hear her sing. Maya organised initiatives that improved the lives of those around her, from setting up a small library for the village children to organising food drives for families in need. The twins, Nia and Lila, transformed the village's appearance with their art, filling it with colour and life. Despite their accomplishments, the weight of tradition hung heavy in their home, especially when Elma was around. She would watch the girls' achievements with a critical eye, often muttering under her breath. "What good is a daughter's ambition?" she would scoff, dismissing their achievements as hobbies and distractions. But Lena knew better. She saw the impact her daughters were making, the lives they were touching, and the way their spirits remained unbroken despite the lack of recognition from those closest to them. And so, each night under the oak tree, she continued to remind them of their value, her voice steady and unwavering. "Never let anyone make you feel small," she would say, "because you are destined for great things. The world may not see it now, but one day they will have no choice but to recognize who you are." These nights under the stars, filled with stories, lessons, and Lena's boundless love, became the foundation upon which her daughters built their identities. They carried her words within them, knowing that no matter how much the world tried to undervalue them, they had a mother who believed in their greatness. And, for Lena, that belief was all the armour they needed. Years had passed, and Lena's household was lively with the voices of her daughters. Each one of them had grown stronger, more resilient under her guidance. But despite their accomplishments and the love Lena showered upon them, the whispers of disappointment continued, lingering in the minds of those who valued sons over daughters. This lingering disappointment weighed heavily on Lena, especially when she thought about her husband and mother-in-law's hopes for a male heir. One evening, Lena received unexpected news she was pregnant again. A mix of emotions washed over her: fear, hope, and a quiet desperation for acceptance. She couldn't help but worry about what would happen if this child, too, was a daughter. While Lena treasured her girls and knew that their worth was beyond question, she also saw the toll society's expectations took on her family. She found herself hoping just once that this child might be the son that would finally earn her the approval of Kai and Elmer. As her due date approached, the household was filled with an intense, nervous energy. When the day finally arrived, Lena was surrounded by her family, their faces a mixture of anticipation and anxiety. Hours passed in tense silence as they awaited news from the midwife. Finally, she emerged, a wide smile on her face, and announced, "It's a boy!" The room erupted. Elma clapped her hands with an energy no one had seen before. "A son! At last, Lena has fulfilled her duty," she exclaimed, her face alight with pride. Kai, usually so reserved, broke into a smile, his joy palpable for the first time in years. Lena watched as her husband's face softened, finally showing the approval she had longed to see. But beneath her relief, a quiet sadness stirred within her, a feeling of isolation that was hard to ignore. Their new son, whom they named Ethan, quickly became the center of everyone's attention. Elmer doted on him, treating him like a precious jewel, and Kai's love and pride for his son were unmistakable. Ethan was given every privilege, every comfort, while Lena's daughters looked on, their presence in the household now relegated to the background. The sons were no longer simply members of the family. They were, in the eyes of Kai and Elmer, the very future of it. One evening, as Lena quietly observed the way her daughters were overlooked, she finally summoned the courage to approach Kai. "Why do you treat our daughters like they don't matter?" she asked, her voice low but steady. Kai looked at her, his expression softening just slightly. "They are strong," he replied, almost dismissively. "They'll understand. But a son is different. He carries the family name and our legacy." Lena's heart ached, but she knew she would continue to fight for her daughter's worth. She had taught them strength, resilience, and dignity, and in her heart, she knew that these qualities would carry them forward, no matter how invisible they might seem now. As Ethan grew, he was showered with love, privileges, and attention, a stark contrast to his sisters. Kai and Elmer continued to dote on him, reinforcing the belief that he was the family's true pride and hope. Meanwhile, Lena's daughters, resilient and driven, quietly pursued their dreams, undeterred by the lack of recognition in their own home. Amara, Lena's eldest, excelled in her studies, her dedication unmatched. Her dream of becoming a doctor burned brightly, and she won a scholarship to attend a prestigious university. Lena's second daughter, Leah, discovered her voice, captivating everyone who heard her sing. She soon found herself performing on local radio, her voice a beacon that resonated far beyond the village. Maya, the third daughter, channeled her energy into community work, organizing initiatives that uplifted those in need, becoming a symbol of hope and strength. The youngest twins, Naya and Lila, filled the village with their creativity, painting vivid murals that turned dull walls into colorful masterpieces. Yet, despite all their achievements, Elma barely acknowledged their efforts. She scoffed at Amara's ambition, dismissed Leah's voice as a mere hobby, and criticized Maya's community work as a waste of time. For Elma, a daughter's worth could never match that of a son, no matter what they accomplished. Even Ethan, growing up with the notion that he was the center of the family, began to embody his grandmother's attitudes, looking down on his sisters and ignoring their successes. To him, they were merely girls, unworthy of the same respect or importance. Despite the neglect, Lena's daughters stayed true to their mother's teachings. They had learned to find strength within themselves, to be their own source of pride and validation. And though their achievements were ignored at home, their hearts remained unbroken, each sister growing more determined to rise above the expectations that tried to limit them. As Ethan grew older, the privileges and constant praise he received began to mold him into someone far removed from his sisters. With Kai and Elma continually indulging his every desire, Ethan developed a sense of entitlement, viewing himself as superior to those around him. School and responsibilities seemed trivial to him. He had been told for as long as he could remember that his worth came not from achievements, but simply from being the son. While his sisters dedicated themselves to hard work and discipline, Ethan became increasingly dismissive of any effort that didn't benefit him directly. Ethan's time was spent among friends who fed his ego, and he began to take up habits that worried the villagers. Nights were spent drinking, gambling, and joining a crowd known for trouble. His behavior became a source of rumors and quiet concern in the village, with people murmuring about the boy who was once celebrated as the family's hope. Meanwhile, Kai and Elma turned a blind eye, unwilling to confront the reality that their favored child might be going astray. One night, everything came to a head. A knock on the door startled the family from their evening meal. It was one of Ethan's friends, his face pale and voice trembling as he delivered the news. Ethan had collapsed and was in critical condition at the hospital. The shock hit Kai and Elma like a thunderbolt. Panic-stricken, they rushed to the hospital, their minds racing with fear and disbelief. This was their golden boy, the one they had pinned all their hopes on. How could this be happening? When they arrived, they found Ethan lying unconscious, his face pale and body weak from the damage he had inflicted upon himself over the years. The doctor's words were harsh and unfiltered. Ethan's condition was grave, and he needed immediate, costly surgery to save his life. The reality sank in slowly. Kai and Elma, despite their constant favouring of Ethan, had not saved enough to cover the expenses of such an emergency. Desperation overcame them. They had built their lives around Ethan, neglecting the needs and achievements of Lena's daughters, yet here they were, unable to provide for their beloved son when he needed it most. Kai turned to Lena, his face lined with worry and regret, his pride now shattered. He knew there was no way they could afford the surgery on their own, and his heart sank as he faced the truth. They needed help. For Lena, the situation was agonizing. She looked at her husband, at Elma, and then at her son, whose life now hung by a thread. Despite all the years of neglect her daughters had endured, she knew she couldn't let her sons suffer. In a final act of desperation, Lena gathered her daughters, who had by now all established successful lives away from home, and shared the news with them, her voice breaking. "Your brother needs you," she said softly, her words laced with sorrow and hope. "He needs us all right now." The daughters listened, their hearts conflicted. Though they had every reason to feel hurt and rejected, they looked to their mother's eyes, seeing the love and worry that had shaped their own strength. Despite everything, the lessons of compassion and resilience that Lena had taught them now guided their response. Lena looked into the eyes of her daughters, her heart full of worry, but also hope. Though they had been cast aside by their own family, the daughters could see the urgency in their mother's words, and something in them began to stir. This was a moment where all the years of growing up in their mother's love and sacrifice had made them stronger, and now they faced the choice of whether to help the brother who once turned his back on them. Ethan's fate now lay in the hands of the sisters he had once dismissed. What will they decide? Will love and forgiveness be powerful enough to overcome the pain of the past? Stay tuned for the next episode to discover the journey of these resilient young women and see how they'll face this heart-wrenching decision. If this story has touched your heart, please hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next part. Don't forget to like and share your thoughts in the comments below. Can family love and forgiveness truly conquer all? Let's hear from you.